Okay guys, welcome back. For those of you that don't know, my name is Coach Mark and I specialize in corrective exercise, bodybuilding, and weight loss. Today we're going to be working on the legs and the glutes, focusing on the gluteus medius and the hip flexors as well. You're going to need one light resistance band, one medium resistance band, and one heavy resistance band. Alright, let's do it. Exercise number 1 is the side steps. We're going to start with the light resistance band around our ankles and begin a 45-second timer. You can pay attention to the timer on the screen, and we're going to do this for 4 sets total. Make sure to keep your legs nice and straight and stiffen up the muscles in your quadriceps, hamstrings, and glutes by drilling your feet into the floor. Stretching out that band with the steps as much as you can, taking about 3 to each side and alternating directions. So I've designed this workout and my goal here is to warm up the legs with this first exercise and get those hip muscles activated. First set complete, we're going into set 2 now. You can rest and pause the video in between for around 30 seconds. I'm going to increase the resistance to the medium resistance band now, so make sure you've got that on. Same thing, taking a few small steps to the side and then alternating directions. Making sure to keep our legs stiff. And now you can start to feel those muscles getting activated. Nice and simple. And now we're moving on to set 3, where we're going to change the resistance band again, now onto the heavy resistance band. If you haven't felt it by now, you're going to with this band. Here we go for another set. Set 3, heavy resistance band. Stretching it out as much as I can. As you take a step out to the side, make sure that your opposite leg that's remaining on the floor is providing outward pressure so that your ankle doesn't cave in. Pushing through the set and making sure our legs are still stiff. We are about to complete set 3. Take a rest, and we're moving on to set 4. We're going to continue to use the heavy resistance band. Continue to keep stretching that band and making sure your ankles are providing outward pressure so that your ankles don't cave in. Focusing on the gluteus medius hip muscle every step. And finished our first exercise. Take a hydration break and get ready for the next exercise. After resting for about 45 seconds, we're going to begin our second exercise, the squats. We are going to perform the squats with the resistance band placed around our lower thigh just above the knee, completing 4 sets total for around 45 seconds each, or 8 to 12 reps. Using the resistance band, we're going to lower to the floor, bending our knees, and stretch that resistance band out simultaneously. Our goal here is to move our knees outwards, stretching out the band, standing up tall, and squeezing our glutes at the top of the motion. I want you to pretend you have a walnut in between your glutes and you're trying to crack that walnut by squeezing your glutes together. This is going to give us a really good contraction and really pump up the muscles. Moving on to set 2, resting for around 30 seconds in between. For the next set, we're going to increase the resistance to the medium resistance band still placed around the lower thigh and upper knee. You can see my squat from another angle now. As you can see, I'm bending my knees to around 90 degrees and maintaining a straight back as I lower to the floor with my shoulders pulled back. When I stand up tall, I squeeze my glutes as hard as I can and bring my pelvis forward, drilling my feet into the floor and keeping my ankles outwards. We don't want our ankles to cave in. We want to maintain the natural arch of our foot. And on to set 3. We're now going to move on to the heavy resistance band, so things are going to get tough. We want to make sure we can use a resistance band that we're capable of stretching out. So if the heavy resistance band is too much for you, then please go back down to the medium resistance band. We want to make sure we can stretch that band out at the bottom of the motion, opening up our knees every repetition. Standing up tall, squeezing our glutes. The use of these bands are just going to activate a lot more muscles in our glutes and legs in general. Making sure we're taking deep breaths on our way down and exhaling on the way up. Breathe in, breathe out, and squeeze. And moving on to the last set, set 4. We're going to continue to use the heavy resistance band or the heaviest resistance band that you can use. Here you can see my squat from the back angle, and using the lines I've put on the screen, you can see that my glutes are coming down right in the center of my knees as I lower to the floor. Using the additional lines that I put on the screen now, you can see that my knees are coming past my ankles every repetition as I stretch out that band. Continue to squeeze your glutes at the top of the motion as hard as you can by pretending there's that walnut there and you're trying to crack it. And that concludes our second exercise, the squats. We're now moving on to the third exercise, the angled kickbacks. You're going to need the light resistance band to start, placed around your ankles, and ideally a wall as well to create extra stability. We're going to complete 8 repetitions on each leg for a total of 4 sets. To complete the angled kickback, you want to kick your leg out at a 45-degree angle behind you. The goal is to stretch that band out as much as possible as you kick your leg out and return it back slowly, making sure our leg that's remaining on the floor is nice and stable and our ankle is staying outwards, making sure the natural arch of our foot doesn't cave in. So nice and simple, set 1. We're now moving on to set 2, resting for around 30 seconds in between. Moving on to the medium resistance band now. Your goal is to focus on the muscles in your glutes as you stretch out that band, keeping a nice straight leg and completing 8 repetitions. Rest in between legs for around 10 seconds, taking deep breaths. So you want to control that resistance band, stretch it out, pause for a second, and bring it back slowly. Be in control of the band and don't let it control your legs. So still pretty easy. Now we're moving on to set 3 with the heavy resistance band. Give it a try and try to stretch that band out as much as you can. Still at a 45-degree angle and focusing on our glute muscles with our mind. So this exercise should be fairly easy. Continue to use the heaviest resistance band that you can stretch out for the last set. By this last set, it should start to get a little challenging, but continue to push through it and complete those 8 repetitions on each side. And that completes our 3rd exercise, the angled kickbacks. Moving on to our 4th exercise, the angled leg raises. This exercise is going to target the hip flexors, and we're going to begin by placing the resistance band around our ankles. We're going to do this for a total of 4 sets and 8 repetitions on each leg, similar to the last exercise, but now alternating legs throughout the set. With the resistance band around our ankles, we're going to stretch that band out at a 45-degree angle upwards while our other leg rests on the floor. Stretch that band out with a 2-second tempo, 1 second up and 1 second down. Taking deep breaths every rep. And I like to keep my head off of the floor with my hands pressing into the floor for extra stability. That was set 1 with the light resistance band, rest for around 30 seconds in between, and now we're going on to set 2. We're going to increase the resistance to the medium resistance band. You can see the exercise now from another angle. So I'm stretching the band out at a 45-degree angle upwards and slowly returning it back to the floor. Continue until you've reached 8 reps on each leg. And now we're moving on to set 3. So if that wasn't tough, here we go on the heavy resistance band now. Give it a try and try to stretch it out as much as you can, still at that 45-degree angle. This band is going to be a lot harder. So your other leg that's resting on the floor is going to have to really push down while you stretch that other leg up. Take deep breaths, push through the floor with your hands if you have to. And don't give up, guys. Nice and simple. Now we're moving on to the last set, set 4, continuing with the heavy resistance band. Just like last set, push through it and stretch that band out up as high as you can. that concludes exercise 4, the angled leg raises. Moving on to exercise 5 now, the straight leg kickbacks. We're going to complete these standing up with the resistance band placed around our ankles. We're going to do 4 sets and 8 repetitions on each leg. To complete this exercise, I like to use a wall to create extra stability. And we're keeping a straight leg as we stretch that resistance band out behind us, kicking our leg back. On to set 2, increasing to the medium resistance band. You can see I'm kicking my leg backwards, straight behind me, keeping a straight leg and trying to activate the glute muscle as much as possible. You're going to feel this in the hamstrings as well. Try to control the band, kick it out, and bring it back slowly. Finishing 8 reps on each leg. Moving on to our last set, set 4, continuing with the heavy resistance band. You should know the drill by now, we're increasing the resistance each set. And that concludes the straight leg kickbacks. Those were pretty easy, not too challenging. You can pause the video and hydrate, and now we're going to move on to our final exercise of today, the glute bridges. We're going to perform the glute bridges on the floor with the resistance band around our lower thigh and upper knee. Place your feet on the floor about shoulder width apart, bending our knees to around a 90-degree angle as shown by the arrow on the screen. We're going to bring our glutes up to the ceiling, activating our glute muscles, squeezing them together, and driving our heel through the floor. When you're at the top of the motion, we're going to stretch the resistance band outwards by opening up our knees out. So glutes up, knees out. Bring your knees back, and then return your glutes to the floor. And that is how to complete the glute bridge. Moving on to set 2 with the medium resistance band. Glutes up, knees out, return your glutes back to the floor. So we're stretching that resistance band out at the top of the motion. Hip thrusting our glutes into the air and squeezing them as hard as we can. Driving our heels through the floor and keep our ankles out. We want outwards pressure on our feet to make sure that our ankles don't cave in. We want our ankles outwards and our knees out. Every rep you should be squeezing your glutes as hard as you can at the top of the motion as you stretch that resistance band. Here we go for set 3, the heavy resistance band on now. Exploding upwards, and then returning back down to the floor slowly. Taking deep breaths every repetition. On to the last set now. Taking a look at my form now, you can notice that every repetition my knees are opening up at the top of the motion and then closing again, and then I return down to the floor. An additional tip is that it helps to feel the contraction of the muscle more by touching the muscle with your hand. Give it a try and see if you notice a difference. Okay, almost finished our last set. If you made it this far, no excuses now. Complete the 8 reps. And that is it, guys. That concludes the 6 exercise leg and glute workout number 2. I'm going to finish it off with a 3-minute stretch. You can follow along the video and listen to my voice. Begin by reaching into the sky with your hands, stretching out your body, making yourself as tall as possible. Then we're going to reach down to the floor, keeping our legs straight, performing a forward fold. Reach for your toes and look down in between your legs behind you. Grab behind your ankles and pull yourself downwards in between your legs. Place your hands on the floor, shoulder width apart. Open up your knees and bring your glutes down to the floor. Begin by rocking side to side, getting as low to the floor as you possibly can. We're going to take a seat now and putting our legs out straight. Reach up and reach out forward, grabbing your toes with your hands. If you can't reach your toes, grab your ankles and pull yourself forward. Bring one leg in and continue to lean forward, reaching out for your toes. We're going to switch legs now. Next, we're going to get into the butterfly position. Begin by grabbing your ankles and bringing them in towards your groin as tight as possible. Grab onto your toes and begin by flapping your wings, rocking side to side, touching your knee to the floor. Bring your feet in as tight as possible. Grabbing your toes, lean forward, bringing your head to the floor. Next, we're going to get into this wide stretched position and place one hand on each foot. Try to get as wide as possible. Placing 2 hands on one side and then 2 hands on the other side. Next, we're going to stand up slowly and begin by leaning to one side, slowly bringing our hand down our leg and reaching down to our foot with both hands. Complete it on both sides with our feet in this wide stance. Roll out your ankles and wrists, doing one ankle at a time and both wrists at a time. Completing wide circles. Next, we're getting into the downward dog, placing our hands on the floor, shoulder width apart, bending one knee at a time, keeping our other leg straight. The goal is to get your whole heel on the floor, and then into the cobra position. Bring your head through your arms, arching your back. You can stretch your neck in this position by bringing your ear to your shoulder on each side and rolling your neck around. Then get into the child's pose by bringing your glutes back, leaning back, and reaching out with your arms. Shimmy your hands to the left, and then shimmy your hands to the right. stretching out your lat muscles. Next is the cat and camel. Bring the middle of your back up towards the ceiling and then arch your back, bringing your head and glutes up. Thank you so much for giving this workout a try, and I hope to see you in the next one.